Hello everyone. In this video today I'm going to show you how to work with inputs in Fusion. So to find the input list window, you go into Fusion Admin and then Setup and then Inputs. Once you click on that, this list window here is going to come up with all the inputs that you already have, and you can go ahead and click New or edit an existing one. If you've had one there for quite a long time, you're probably not going to want to delete it, and actually Fusion does a pretty good job in making sure you don't delete it, just because it's got some historical information related to it. But you could definitely change the name of it. That way it'll still show up on your list. So I thought the easiest way to show you this would be to have one that's already prepared. And in this example, we're going to look at a castration band. So when you hit New up here in the top left and go to an input, this input window shows up and you start going through the categories to fill in. So the name, castration band, and then there's two checkboxes here, applied to individual animals or applied to groups of animals. So for a castration band, you might want to be able to do both. So we're going to leave them both checked off. For something else, like straw bedding, you're probably not going to apply that to an individual animal. So you would just leave it checked off for applied to groups of animals only. Next, you can set your distribution unit and billing unit, and these can be different if you want them to be. In this case, we're going to use the same for both. But again, in the case of straw, you might want the distribution units to be in bales and the billing unit to be in tons. That's totally up to you and how you want to manage it. So for billing method, lookup versus direct. Lookup is going to reference the billing attributes associated with that input. So that would be in the list input attributes window in Fusion Core. I'll just show you that quick. List input attributes. That's if you want to use lookup. If you want to do direct, when you go to add that input later on in Fusion, say you just run a shoot side job and you want to add some inputs after the fact, it's going to ask you for the cost associated if you click direct. In this case, we're going to use lookup. That way we can just keep updating our attributes list window and use those values. A distribution unit for this makes sense. Head count, in other instances, you might want to use proportionate weight. And then you can set a default billing category. So this is how it will show up. If you need more information on billing categories and what kind of rules and what overrides what, have a look at that. But for inputs that are applied, we're going to have this under tags and supplies, and you could apply it to any billing category you wanted to. That's totally up to you. And we want to track inventory for this item. So something like a shoot charge as an input, you probably wouldn't track inventory because it's not a physical thing. But for castration bands, we're going to. Again, you don't have to. That's totally up to you. And then we have over here on the right some location specific information. So that specific location will have a different inventory threshold and capacity. So that's why you have to narrow that down. So I've just put in here a threshold of 30 bands and a maximum capacity of 250 bands. So that's just saying our Strovi Beef Inc. can only hold 250 bands at once. And I want to get a notification when we're at that threshold of 30 bands. So average usage days is a little bit tricky, but you tell Fusion the amount of time frame you want it to look at for average usage. So that way it can give you an idea of when you're going to run out. So Fusion will average the usage per day over the 30-day time frame. Now you could make this 100 days, you can make it 5 days. That's totally up to you, but 30 days for castration bands seems like a pretty good value for this example. Again, that's totally up to you. Billing markup. So you could have none, percentage, or dollar. So when you're using the bulk attribute change window, you might want to reference this billing markup. I'm going to leave it as none for now. And then when I create my input attributes, I'm going to have specific cost and bill at values that I will use there. If you have any more questions about this or want to look at different input attributes or how they work or that kind of thing, feel free to give us a call at Fusion. But for now, I hope this video can give you a pretty good baseline of what to expect. And as always, reference the documentation whenever you need it by just clicking on this little question mark here in the bottom left. Thanks.